electric operations. Today we wanted to talk about the filing of our winter supply rates, and I'm happy to say that they're 39% less than last year's winter supply rates. So this year's rate, if approved by PURA, our standard service residential supply rate will be 14.7 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, you may recall that last winter that rate was over 24 cents per kilowatt hour, so it's a significant difference. It is important to remember that we have two supply rates per year: the winter supply rate, which runs from January through June, and then the summer supply rate, which runs from July through the end of December. So while this winter rate is significantly less than last year's winter rate, from a customer's perspective, they're on the summer rate right now. So if they're a residential customer on the standard service rate, they're at 13.8 cents. So what they will actually see in January is a move from 13.8 cents to 14.7, so just about a 1 cent increase. If you look all in, that's on the supply side. If you look all in, supply, delivery, public policy, that 1 cent represents about 3% of a customer's total bill, which for the average residential customer is about $6 per month. So that's what our customers will see. It is important to remember that Eversource is not in the supply business. We do not generate electricity. Electricity is generated by very large national and international companies. We are the local delivery company, and the delivery rate is not changing. So the delivery rate will stay flat. The reason that we are here talking to you about the winter supply rates is because for our customers that do not go out and purchase their own power, we purchase their power for them. So we go out in the open market, we do the best we can purchasing that power, and then we pass that on at no cost to our customers. So even though we do the best we can to get that supply rate, and we think that this winter's rate is a good rate, customers may be able to do better, and we encourage them to do so. So the best way that customers can do that is to go to a website called energizect.com. It's a state-sponsored website. It's very intuitive. It's relatively easy to use. Most customers would be able to very quickly navigate through that website. But if they have any questions at all, they can go to Eversource.com Supplier, and there they will find information with tips, how-tos on how to go out and get their own supplier. And in fact, a short little video that actually walks you through the process. So folks could come up to speed on that website, and then with confidence they could go to energizect.com, they could shop, they could sign up, and they could save. So even though this winter's rate is significantly less than last winter's rate, we still recognize that that's a hardship for many of our customers. But we have many assistance programs to help those customers. And today we have our Vice President of Customer Operations, Jessica Kane. She's an expert in those assistance programs, and I'd just like Jess to come up and talk to you about those. So, Jess?
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. So you might have recognized that back in September we announced some brand new assistance for our low-income customers. Specifically, starting December 1, we have a brand new low-income discount rate. So customers who are in households that are low income will either get a 10% or 50% discount off their total bill. Brand new, never been seen before. We have how do customers find out if they are eligible? So for customers, the best way to find out is to go to your local community action agency, or you can go to 211ct.org. But generally, it's customers who have an income that's 60% or below the state median income, or will get the 10% discount. And then customers who have 160% or less than the federal poverty guideline, they can get that 50% discount. You don't need to remember those numbers. Customers don't need to remember them. Just go to your local community action agency, or like Steve said, just come to eversource.com and we'll describe that for you. So that's brand new. Two other things I want customers to know about is energy assistance, so the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program. Also, that's a program with the state. Customers can get up to $530 towards their heating bill by going to their local community action agency and getting SEEP assistance. That's the only place they can get it, so do take advantage of it. And then last but not least is for those who have a past due balance, we have for many years had programs that can give forgiveness to customers. When they make payments, we're going to match part of that payment and give forgiveness. Those are for the low-income customers. And even if you're not in a low-income household, we can take your past due balance and spread it out over 18 months just to lower that, keep those costs lower so that you can afford your bills during this winter season. And with that, I'll ask if there are any questions.
I have a quick question. Do you have any how does this winter's rate compare to kind of pre-Ukraine, like the January 2022 rates? What were the rates before last year?
Yeah,
Going back to the
good question. Now, I would say they're much more in line with where they have been in the past. So just to step back again, in the electric grid is all interconnected. In New England, we are heavily reliant upon natural gas for the generation of our electricity. That works great in the summertime. There's plenty of natural gas to flows to those power plants, and that's why the summer rate tends to be lower than the winter rate. In the winter, the gas goes first to residential customers for their heating use to keep their houses warm, and we're constrained in New England in terms of gas supply lines into the area. So there's literally not enough gas to also supply these power plants. They then turn to liquid natural gas, or LNG, and they pump it into the system. That's how they're able to produce electricity in the winter, and that's really what sets the winter price, is that commodity price of liquid natural gas, or LNG. And just as you pointed out, last winter, Europe also relies on natural gas for both their heating and to create electricity. They typically get that natural gas from Russia. Last year, they were not able to do that. They went heavy into the LNG market. That spiked last year's price. This year, what has essentially happened is Europe has built up a supply, so they're sitting on a fairly large supply of LNG, and the LNG producers have ramped up their ability to produce more LNG, so there's more of it out on the market. And the local generators that are here, they have one winter under their belt. So because of all those reasons, their winter pricing has come back down closer to what it's been in the past, slightly higher than the summer months, but not that big rate shock that our customers saw last year.
Any numbers on how much money the average customer will save compared to last year?
Yep. So if you're looking at the winter rate year over year, that difference is about 19% if you look all in, supply, delivery, public policy, which represents about a $46 per month savings this winter as compared to last winter for the average customer.
When do you think we will see the shift here in New England from gas-fired, power generation to something else?
Well, I mean, certainly there's a lot of offshore wind that's under construction, and it's really all a matter of the timing of when that hits the market. So certainly our traditional mix, if you go backwards in time, coal, oil, nuclear, natural gas. The coal and the oil plants are virtually all gone. The nuclear plants, many of those have retired. There's a couple that are left. That's why we're so heavily reliant upon natural gas. Certainly the wind power is coming, but there have been challenges in the construction of those wind fields themselves, and I think it's going to be several more years before we start to see it come on. Certainly a significant amount of time before enough comes online to push gas out of its dominant position.
You would agree it has to change eventually, right?
Well, I think everybody certainly, from a societal basis, everybody is on board with the transition to clean energy. Eversource is on board with the transition to clean energy. We support that. We support wind energy. We support solar. But we're also supporting transitioning to make the grid reliable during that transition period.
So I'm also wondering, electric vehicles, we're seeing a lot more of them on the market, and I know the state of Connecticut wants to transition to all electric vehicles into the future. That's going to put a huge strain on the grid. I think I read something, it was like one electric vehicle plugged in is equivalent to like 100 houses, something like that. I don't know if you correct me, but what kind of a burden does that put in the grid, and what kind of changes do you have to make?
So it's a little bit different than that. The average house uses about 700 kilowatt hours per month. If you charge one electric vehicle charger in, that's considered to be about 400 kilowatt hours per month. So if the average home has two, that's 800 kilowatt hours. You've essentially just doubled what that average home uses. On a broader basis, there are estimates that to truly electrify the transportation sector, which most experts agree is what's absolutely needed to transition to reduce our carbon usage, that's about a 50% increase on the electric system. So that would require a multitude of things, the new sources of clean energy, such as wind that you've talked about, but also the system itself. The transmission system has to increase in order to be able to wheel this clean power in from greater distances, and then the distribution of the system itself must become more robust in order to be able to handle that increased load that comes from the electric vehicle. So that takes a collaboration between the local delivery utilities and our regulators and the state, and we're working very hard to engage in a collaborative process on that.
2034, a reasonable, attainable goal for that?
I think if we were able to embark on a collaborative process right now and get moving on the changes that would need to be made, yes, that's a reasonable goal.
So just to clarify, the prices for this coming winter are going to be less compared to last year because of the inventory of natural gas?
So this year's winter price, which is going to be 14.7 cents, significantly less, this is for supply, significantly less than last year's winter supply price that was around 24 cents. The winter price is all driven by these natural gas generators. They rely on LNG, liquid natural gas, and that's essentially correct. The liquid natural gas forward-looking market is less this winter than it was last winter. It's slightly more than traditionally what it has been if you look further back in time, but it's more in line with kind of the traditional winter market in New England.
Can you talk a little bit about your smart meter program that you're going to be endeavoring?
Well, in terms of the program itself, it's a draft decision. So really, we're just now reviewing the decision that just came out of Pura. So at this point, I really wouldn't talk about the specifics of that. But I do think that advanced meter systems are something that as we move forward in time, they really will be required for our customers to take full advantage of the information that's now available to them today with programmable devices, the ability to ramp up and ramp down your own personal electric usage on individual devices, and especially as you start to make that transition towards electric vehicles, the ability to be able to set the time for when your car, if it's sitting in the garage or it's in its driveway, is going to access that energy. I think that's very important, and there are many other factors that we believe make AMI important for our customers, and again, we're trying to work with our regulators to ensure that that can happen.
And I guess I would just ask, obviously when prices went up last winter, we saw a lot of customers, as you mentioned, go to Energize CT and switch their supplier. Are you seeing those people start to come back, and if so, how many?
We have not yet seen them come back, but just a couple of statistics about that. If you cycle back a couple of years ago, only about 10% of our customers take advantage of EnergizeCT.com and go get their own supplier. Because of last winter's pricing, most likely, and the fact that we've been trying to encourage customers to make that move, right now about 23% of our customers take advantage of EnergizeCT.com and get their own energy supplier. From our standpoint as Eversource, we would love to see 100% of our customers make that transition and go get their own energy supplier. As I've said, we are not in the energy supply business. We do have to go out and purchase it for our customers that do not go out and get it on their own, but that's a pure pass-through for us. We pass that through with no markup. It's at the same cost that we go out and purchase it.
But people have to be careful with that too, because a lot of these third-party suppliers, they do have tricky contracts. You got to read the fine print.
Excellent point, and I'm glad you mentioned that. You absolutely have to check that the rate you signed up for is what shows up on your bill, and you pretty much have to go back in on a monthly basis and check on that. I will say that Pura regulations have made a lot of changes in that regard, and they've put a lot of protections in place for consumers, and I think that's helping consumers in that regards.
Those programs for low-income families, is that anything new? Is this a reminder, or does that stem from the high bills from last year?
Good question. The discount rate is brand new. We've never had this before in Connecticut. It brings us up to a place where our neighboring states have had those programs, the discount rates for low-income customers for many years. It's not a result of last year's pricing. It's been in the works for probably 4 years, and our Pura approved those rates last September. to do a discount rate. The other programs that give arrears forgiveness for low-income customers that have past due balances, those have been around for decades. And they're very successful. Not many states have them, maybe a dozen in the nation. So it's one of the areas that Connecticut is a leader.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you. White lights, man. It was yours, that LED. Good question.